Kenneth H. Merrill Sr., Mudhole from Arizona, knew that they were first to fight, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get in there and get them Japs. When I was in boot camp, they put out a form that, that they're taking people that want to volunteer. And so I did. And the sergeant that was the head of the platoon that I was in, he tried to talk me out of it. He said, "You don't want to go with those catch me, kill me outfit." I said, "Yeah, I do." They trained me as a machine gunner, and that's what I knew. We got different training, setups and all that kind of stuff. And I ran around the compound there in San Diego 5 times with my rifle, saying I love my rifle because I call it a gun. But that's the only good thing that I did at that time. Well, we went to Midway. We were out there when the Japs attacked Midway Island. Well, I wasn't there when they attacked, but we pulled in there right after the attack, and the thing that I remember is that this one Jap come in with his plane, and it was smoking, and he pancaked it on the ocean, and he climbed out of it and swam to the pier that went out there. And we thought, well, great, hey, this guy will be able to capture and have to question, And he got to the end of the pier and he climbed up the ladder, and here he comes down the pier there, and he got about halfway down there, and then he pulled out his pistol. He was going to kill him, So we just turned a 50 on him and blew him away. And that's the only Japanese that got on Midway Island. And he didn't live long. And that's about it. They shelled us and they strafed us, and that was about it. We went back to the submarine base at Pearl Harbor, and then from there, we practiced on the submarines for the landing that was going to make on Macon Island. Of course, we didn't know where we were going or anything. But after we got aboard the submarine, then they told us where we was going to go and all this other stuff that goes with it, We, same old, same old. Yeah. Well, Macon Island was at the tip end of that group, and that was Macon Island was a submarine base, and they also was flying planes out of there harassing the transports and stuff that was going to Australia. So that's why they wanted to knock it out. And we knew that too. So what we were worried about is how many Japs was on the island. We figured there'd be about 500, and there was not. There was, I think it was 185, 186 Japanese on the island. That's all. We got to make an island on the submarine. I was on the Nautilus, and I was the sanitation engineer. I want you to know that. That's very important. It was a steady line to the chow and to the toilet. And I was commander of the toilet. And if you sit there for over 3 minutes, I shot the air to you. So that was very important, I thought. Well, we took and surfaced, and then we went on topside, and we inflated our rubber boats that was strapped to the submarine, and we had compressed canisters that blew them right up, you know, where we didn't have any problem at all. And then we dropped them over the side of the marine and jumped in them, and we had outboard motor, and we took and fired them up and took off for the beach. And I remember I was the coxswain on one rubber boat, and I remember I was trying to hold it back because we kept getting up in front of everybody, you know, and I didn't want to be the first one to land on that island, you know. I wanted some others to be on there too, you know, and so we kind of watched ourselves there, and then we right close to the beach, and a wave caught us and put us all up there. We was the first on the island. Well, as soon as we got on the island, why, we naturally pulled the rubber boat up and covered it up with palm leaves and stuff like that, you know. And then we went on into the island, maybe 50 yards, and I set the machine gun up, ready to fire in case we, you know, and that was it. Well, we had we moved out and crossed the road. There was a road that went from one end of the island to the other. The island was 7 miles long. And when we got across the island halfway, well, that's where the road was, and we went forward, I'd say a couple of 100 yards, and then we come under fire, and it was an automatic machine gun that opened up on us, and we hit the deck and found a place in the island, it was kind of a swampy-like deal, and we climbed into that and set the machine gun up and started firing. And we had a duel with them for about, maybe 15 minutes. We'd quiet it, you know, we'd knock it out, and then all of a sudden why it would start up again, you know. And so after we really knocked it out, why then I ran on around and looked down in there to see what it was, and I counted 18 of them that we'd killed. And it was really a mess. And so old Sergeant Waggle, he pulled out a grenade and pulled the pin and threw it in there to make sure that nobody was alive that was in there. And when that grenade went off, well, then that was the end of all of them. So, well, they could shoot, I'll tell you that. They killed a partner of mine that was across on the other side of the road. A sniper got him, you know. And then he had a shotgun. And so I told old Chappie, he was my assistant gunner, I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to run across the road here and get that shotgun because we don't have any weapons like that with us. All we had was 4 or 5 grenades. Each one of us had that, and we had a 45 pistol and our machine gun, and that was it. We didn't have no rifles or anything like that. So anyway, I told Chappie I was going to go, so I did. I ran across the road, and when I ran across the road, a ping, 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 that sniper tried to get me, but he didn't. And so I got the gun and ran back, and ping, 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 he tried to hit me again, but he didn't. And when we got back over there, why, Chapman asked me, he says, well, Mudhole, he says, where the hell's the lanyard? And I said, well, it had blood all over it and everything. I didn't want to pick it up and bring it. He says, well, how many shells is in the gun? I says, hell, I don't know. He says, well, when you pick it up and shoot it, it's liable to be empty, you know. And so he says, you better go back and get it. And I said, well, I will. I'll go back and get it. So I ran back and got it and brought it back. And sure enough, there was only about 4 shells in the shotgun. It was a pump, you know. And so anyway, I loaded it on up where it was full. And we had a lull in the battle. There was no shooting or anything, and all of a sudden, here comes a Jap on a bicycle, just pedaling like hell, boy, and he was really going and coming down the road. And so I wait until he got about, maybe 15 yards from me, and I jumped up and wham! I got him right away, knocked him off his bicycle. And he laid flopping over there in the gutter of the road. But the bike kept coming. In other words, when I knocked him off the bike just kept on coming down the road. Well, I didn't know what the hell it was, you know. I thought maybe it was some secret weapon or something. And so I pumped one into it, and then another one, and took 3 to knock that bicycle down. And I'm the only son of a gun that's in the Marine Corps that shot down a Japanese bicycle and didn't get a medal for it, you know. But I did knock it down finally, and everybody used to kid me about it, you know. Merrill and his bicycle, you know. But, well, we knew that we had secured the island because there was no more fighting. you know. So we knew that we'd either killed them all or whatever. And we knew also that the planes were coming from Kwajalein to bomb us or strafe us or either put men on the island or whatever they wanted to do. And so we charged on up through the island there, and we waited for the planes to come. And they did, they came. And they strafed us, and they bombed us, and we were given orders not to shoot. In other words, we didn't want to give our positions away or anything like that. And they come real low in, you know, and I could see them in the plane. And man, I had that machine gun right there. I could have knocked him out. But the orders are orders, so you didn't do anything about it. But in the meantime, also, there was a big four-motored seaplane that come in the lagoon side, and that's the side that we were on. And we knew that they had reinforcements, and I don't know how many men was on that, but I took the machine gun and I put it at a slant, you know, because it was about 2,000 yards away, you know. And I could see the tracers going into it though. And we put about a half a belt into the airplane, and it started spinning, you know, around like that, and then started to take off, and whoa, she blew. I don't know how many men were on that airplane, but the count that we had was the count that was actually on the island. And that's the only count we had. Nobody was going to swim out there and count how many Japanese was on. And there was also a small observation plane that come in with that big seaplane. And we shot it down too. It just about got away, but we finally got him, you know. We just killed him, that's all, you know. We didn't, there were certain tactics that we had, you know, like when you're lining up to take care of a bullseye or whatever, you know, and they did bullseyes. Well, there was so much smoke, believe it or not, there was so much smoke from everybody firing that you couldn't even see, you know. You couldn't see the enemy even, you know, because you take the firepower that we had was unbelievable, you know. We had those fire groups, and we had a Tommy gun, we had an M1 and a BAR and an M1 in each fire group. And you take about 185 men shooting, hey boy, you're gonna put up a lot of smoke. And you don't realize that when you're training and everything, you don't realize the little things that actually either help you or either they're bad for you, you know. No. Yeah. Well, Jimmy Roosevelt gave me that. We was training at Jack's Farm, which is right here in San Diego, and we was on a 50-mile hike, and we stopped to rest just a few minutes, and I had drank all of my water in my canteen, and I was thirsty as the dickens, and so where we stopped, about 4 feet from me, was a mud puddle, you know. So I got down on all fours, being from Arizona, you know, and I was sucking her dry. And here comes Jim, you know. He says, "Merrill, what the hell are you doing?" I says, "I'm getting a drink, sir." He said, "Get out of that mud hole." Mud hole. That stuck with me all this time. So, but I was a pretty good swimmer when I was a young man. And we counted the waves, I did, there on the beach when we was wrestling. And every 10th wave seemed like it was smaller than the others to me. And so I told everybody that. And I says, "Okay, let's get on this damn thing and let's get out to that sub." Because you could see it way out there, and red light would blink on and off, on and off. And of course we knew that was the only way home. So we waited until that 10th wave was ready to come, and then we ran out there with that boat, and we got through. And we got out to the sub. Well, we landed at Tassamboco. That was a village, you know, and we come in on these, what the hell do they call them? Anyway, you had to jump over the side of the boat. We never had any of those types that landed from the front end, you know, where they dropped that gate or whatever they want to call it. But we was there at Tassamboco, and we got off the Higgins boat and ran into the brush just a little ways, and then I set the machine gun up and ready to go. And we had just a few minutes after we set up the machine gun, why, wham, we heard a pistol shot, you know. I thought, oh boy, here we're gonna really have it now. And so anyway, the shot rang out, and then the word come down, and the word was the old man shot a Jap. And that goes to show you the bravery that Carlson had. He was absolutely not afraid of anything. And he was the first man to shoot and kill a Japanese in our outfit. And he was unbelievable. It shows you what kind of leadership he had. You know, he wasn't the type that says, "Okay, boys, go get him." No way. He'd say, "Follow me." And that's exactly what we did. And we'd go over a cliff with him, you know, if that's what he wanted. Any Japanese that we captured, why, we would take and interrogate them and then kill them. Period. You know, a lot of people don't like to hear that. But what would we do? Hey, we're behind the Japanese lines. We're limited with our ammunition, our food, and everything else. And you got an extra guy to feed and everything. No way. And most of the natives were the ones that killed them. We had these native guys with us that helped carry some of our supplies, some of our ammunition and everything. And also we had 2 interpreters with us, and we called them Gung and Ho, because we couldn't remember their names. So we called them Gung Ho, you know. And they were a great help to us. They would interrogate the Japs, and when we captured them, and then give it to the colonel, and the information they give was very important to us and everything. And we knocked out Pistol Pete out there too, you know. And a lot of people don't know that. Pistol Pete was a howitzer cannon that was up in the hills from Henderson Field. And what they would do is when the planes was landing and taking off and everything, they would take and roll this cannon out of the cave. It was on railroad tracks, you know. They'd roll it out of the cave, and then they would shell Henderson Field. And they never could find it, you know. Well, we found it, and we killed them. And we took and blew the hell out of the cannon and all their ammunition and everything else. And there was, I think there was 13 of them that were there that we got. But that's about it. And while we was in back at the lines, why we had our food, but we didn't have canned rations like they have now, or like they had on the island as far as that goes. We had our own supply. We had a sack full of rice and another sack, not a sack, it was a sack all right, but it was a sock that you put on your feet. We had those filled up with rice and with raisins, and I thought I'd never forget. but we carried our own supplies, and what we'd do, take our helmet off and build a little fire and put the rice in the helmet and take the pith helmet out, you know, where it's strictly metal. And we'd take and boil our rice. And then when we got through boiling our rice, well, we'd take and put them in the same canister, the same helmet rather, and go ahead and put raisins in it or whatever else we wanted. And for breakfast, well, we'd have the raisins. And then for lunch, we never did have no lunch really, but just in the evening when it started getting dark, well, we'd go ahead and fire up our chow line, as I called it. But we took and either had rice and raisins, or we would take. We also had salt pork. I forgot to tell you that. We had a big slab of pork that we had, and we'd take and dice that up and fry it, and then put that raisin in there. Man, it really tasted good, I'll tell you. But needless to say, I don't eat any rice anymore. And it's because some of the rice had weevils in it, you know. And we just cooked them right along with everything else, you know. They can get that protein. But we surely did have a rough time with our food because we were always hungry, you know. And every time we'd kill a Jap or anything, we always looked for food. And we ran onto a place where they had kept a bunch of it, you know. And it was all covered up and everything, and we uncovered it. And what it was is pickled Japanese fish heads. Now, if you want to eat something, try one of those. Because, man, I'll tell you, the only way you could get them down is to hold your nose and reach in the can and get one of them Japanese fish heads and throw it in your mouth and swallow it real quick. Because if you didn't, hey, you'd probably throw up, you know. But then Sergeant Major Souza, who was the head of all the natives on the island, he invited me and a couple of other guys to his camp that he was camped at up in the mountains. And, well, they weren't real mountains, but they were pretty darn steep. They were hills, actually. But he invited us up there for dinner. Hell yeah, boy, we're gonna go, you know. So we went up there with him, and they were taking, and they were roasting pig, you know, on a forest, you know. And so we took and got up there with him and everything, and they took and put a banana leaf down for us and everything to eat off of them. And they took this pork and put it on there for them. Boy, it's the best tasting stuff I ever tasted, you know. And I told Chappie, I says, Chappie, I says, you know, this is the best damn pork I ever tasted. He says, Mudhole, he says, don't you know what the hell that is? I says, well, what do you mean what it is? He says, that's dog. I said, oh, not old Fido. He said, yeah. I didn't eat any more dog. But I ate quite a bit of dog before I knew it was a dog, you know. So that's about it. Well, they used to try and ambush us, you know, and of course we'd ambush them. And that's about the size of it. It was kind of a catch-me-kill-me deal, you know. And a lot of our battles behind the lines was not with a group, a big group. It was, say, a small group of maybe 5, maybe 6, you know. And we tried to capture as many as we could, but they wanted to die, so we just helped them out, you know, that's all. We had, there was nobody that was afraid to pull the trigger, I'll tell you. Every time you come under fire, you didn't know whether you were going to get hit or not, that's for sure. And you tried to be as, you know, we took a moving target's hard to hit, so keep moving. That was the slogan. Oh. And when you're packing a 32-pound machine gun, why, it's hard to keep moving. But I was a young man, strong, and I had no problem. Moving target's hard to hit, so keep moving. That's exactly what I tell them. Yeah. Well, what stands out with me is them jumping out of that plane at 35,000 feet and not pulling the ripcord until they get down to 5,000 feet. That's bringing her pretty close, I would say. If I had to do it all over again, I'd probably do it the same way, you know. It seems like that you had no mercy on anybody or anything like that, you know. A lot of people has asked me many times how I felt about killing somebody. It was like killing a dog or a cat or something like that, you know. I used to, well, I give the Marine Corps my bracelet that I had, and it was a gold chain, and then I had 7 gold Japanese teeth that was on it. And I took and had the teeth melted down to where they would look like nuggets, you know, and hung them on the, and then I had to get permission from the Commandant to be able to give it to the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps to take it. But they finally did. But just before I sent it off to North Carolina, I had it appraised, and they appraised it at $4,800. Well, you know, they're trying to figure out a way to stop the shipment. But they had me nailed to the cross, man. So I had to go ahead and send it, and I did. And it's back there in the museum. And well, there was Midway, Macon, Guadalcanal, and Bougainville. So, and all of it was all done in a period of 2 years. Now, Bougainville was a little bit different than the others. A matter of fact, we had for the first time dogs, where we never had no dogs before. And also we picked up a couple of Apache Indians for communication. We never had them before. So they come in on the last and that was the last engagement that the 2nd Raider Battalion had, was Bougainville. And I was with Carlson all the way. I was with him when he formed it, and I was with him when he dispersed us. That was it. Well, a lot of fighting, a lot of killing going on. You know, it's kind of difficult when a person questions you about fighting, you know. I don't remember very much, really. Well, I was a cussing and a shooting, that's all, you know. And they'd have to come by and tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Mudhole, I think we killed them all, knock it off," you know. We used to get that barrel white hot, and I wouldn't change barrels, you know. How can you change barrels when they're charging you? You know, you're crazy if you did. You know, it's taking away your weapon. So, yeah, they used to have to come by and say, "Hey, Mudhole, knock it off." I just kept on shooting. That's why I'm here, I think. I hope that they remember me as not a hero. I'm not a hero, you know, and but I did my duty. I was a young kid, a fighting son of a bitch, I'll tell you. And that's exactly what we were. We were crazy, you know. We thought that nothing in the world could destroy us. We thought we could whip anything in the world, you know. And we'd always sing a song before we went into battle, and it was "Onward, Christian Soldiers." We'd always sing that song, you know, and we thought we were Christian soldiers, I guess, you know.